Track temperature, the last session 21 degrees, air temperature 21 degrees. Glorious day in Shanghai in China. The main city center of Shanghai is about an hour's drive. And well, I tell you, if you live in South Africa and you've been in one of our local taxis, you should try one in China. It's also quite a hell racing experience, but quite entertaining nonetheless. Downtown Shanghai, a very impressive city. 17 million people live in Shanghai. And it's got skyscrapers, looks something out of a sci-fi movie. I mean, it's so advanced, it's quite magnificent. And they've most probably got the most impressive facility in motor racing in the world.
Yeah, what a great advert for China as well. When we first saw this track, we looked at it in awe. And as we've heard you mention as well, it is just something fantastic. And just what a great, showcase, and just what a possibility for them to show what they've done in that country.
It really is super impressive. This is Shanghai. Mr. Rocha from the IOC is at the circuit for this Grand Prix this weekend. Don't forget, Beijing going to be hosting the Olympic Games in 2008, and he's over there to go and oversee how they actually put on a big event. And of course, besides the Olympic Games and World Cup soccer, the third biggest sport in the world television audience is Formula One. So a great place for him to come and see how they do.
Well, it's quite interesting that Formula One attracts that viewership for 19 weekends of a year. So it shows you how big Formula One is and how popular Formula One is. And I think after the race, or the quality of racing we saw last weekend, there's no wonder why it is such a fantastic sport and why so many people in the world want to watch it.
No change in the temperatures from earlier on. There's the impressive grandstand overlooking the main straight. A great contingency of Renault fans and a great crowd, Gary, for the Saturday afternoon Shanghai time, coming in to see this fourth practice session and then of course the qualifying.
Yeah, great. And as Vic said, when you have races like we had last weekend, it's very easy to understand why the crowds are there. Obviously, look, Fernando Alonso supporters there coming across to support their driver, and also just great to see just how much support has gone on and progressed in Spain as well since Alonso has been up there winning races and now winning this title. I mean, making the trip all the way across to China to go and watch their man. I think it's just it's fantastic, and just shows you how big Formula One is and what kind of support it's got. It's huge.
Really brilliant. China, just some facts that we got. Total population of China, 1.29 billion people, which is quite a lot. The expected global TV audience for Sunday's race, and don't forget it's on the eastern side of the world. They expect about 195 million people to be watching the race live, and then I suppose in recorded highlights will be about 350 million people to be watching this race this weekend.
Not a small number, or not an insignificant number, and you can understand with those sort of numbers why the sponsorship packages that are sold by these teams, why they are of such high value, why merchandising generates the income that it does. It's just such a huge fan base, and a lot of other sport can only marvel at that fact and aspire to try and build up a fan base like this.
Well, there's quite a bit of talk that Intel could well be McLaren's title sponsor for next year. Coca-Cola look as though they may be entering the world of Formula One, and you've got to think Coca-Cola must probably caught a little bit napping with the likes of Red Bull Racing, who've been there for years as a small little sponsor, now coming with a team. Now I've got two teams. You've got to marvel at how a company like Red Bull have managed to take on a giant like Coca-Cola and have actually been that successful. So Coca-Cola got to come in now and play the same game.
Yeah, I think they certainly have to. And like you said, it's a marketing game, and Red Bull's just been, I think, phenomenal at getting that whole brand out there. And it's fantastic. And even the likes of Coca-Cola, like you said, have got to sit back, take note, and get in on the action.
That's quite an interesting structure there.
Yeah.
I think a team under extreme pressure.
Yeah, they're under a lot of pressure. Just to go back to the Coca-Cola, the numbers being bandied around, they talking about $165 million a year that Coca-Cola are reportedly thinking about getting involved in Formula One.
Well, that's how money you can buy your own teams. So
you can buy a couple of teams.
It's not too bad too bad a figure. But going back to the Ferrari issue, it's just surprising to me that you had comments from Michael Schumacher saying that yesterday the car is faster than they expected. It all looks to be sort of like Brazil type of performance. And, one lap out this morning, and you could say, well, that's actually not on the cards.
Yeah, well, they did. He also did come out and say it could be like Brazil, but it could also be like Japan. So we have to wait and see. The one thing we can say is after 19 races, they definitely aren't sandbagging.
Well, unless they're sandbagging for their performance they expect next year. But let's see, it's good to see Jenson Button in the car. As you mentioned, that there were some rumours of food poisoning, etc. But he seems to be good. He seems to be really putting some very good lap times in.
Yeah.
But I think for me, the standout performance from free practice 3 was Mark Webber in the Williams. The car looks to be really coming on strong. Unfortunately, at the latter part of the year, as is Williams' tradition. But I think it is good for team morale that they're changing and going over to Cosworth, going over to Bridgestone, that they're ending off the year with a reasonable performance.
Ralf Schumacher in discussion, just very peculiar. The Toyota nowhere close to any kind of pace, yet Ricardo Zonta was so super fast yesterday.
Yeah, it's obviously, Zonta doing all those laps on a very, very light fuel load, but what's worrying for Toyota is that they've got Jordan just behind them using the same engine and on Bridgestone tyres, which clearly don't work on the Ferrari. So, Toyota really struggling with that chassis.
And also, I mean, they're behind the likes of Williams, BMW, okay, pedigree team, but they're behind them, they're behind Sauber, they're behind Red Bull Racing, which are independent teams against the might of Toyota.
Yeah, well, basically what we understand, it's the team with the biggest budget in Formula One, the big name chassis designers, chief designers, technical directors. So, there is no excuse. They started off the year in a blaze of glory, in second position, second on the grid, etc. And all of a sudden, they've just gone slower and slower.
Yeah.
After a pole position at Japan, which obviously was, can we say, advantaged by the fact they were very light on fuel. With this sort of performance, you have to say they're going to go light on fuel again and possibly qualify quite high, but that's only going to be there for about 9 laps.
Well, that's most probably the only thing they can do. I mean, there are some great overtaking opportunities on the circuit, Gary. I mean, there's some very, very long straights going into turn 1, also into turn 14.
Yeah, turn 14 is, I think, going to be the classic, overtaking spot in the circuit. Having had such a long run up to it on the straight there, it really gives cars and drivers an opportunity to really, get tucked into the toe, get a bit of a slipstream and pull out in the braking zone and then overtake. But having said that, you'll be able to see later on as we see some of the pictures whilst the cars are on the track. Just look for the dark patches on the circuit and just how late to the corner they actually start, and it just shows you how late these cars are braking.
Yeah.
So even though we say it's a long braking area, it's probably only 10, 15 meters longer than some of the other long braking areas, so it's not that long at all.
Thiago Monteiro getting into his Jordan, had a very, very good rookie season, you've got to say, in terms of consistency, but probably the pick of the bunch, although I must say I'm leaning towards Robert Durnbos. I think he's had a great time since he's joined the Minardi team. But Monteiro, also guys not too sure whether or not they're going to be in F1 next season.
Yeah, and like as we mentioned just now, with these manufacturer-based teams or well-financed teams, they don't need paid drivers anymore.
Yeah.
And it leaves guys like that were able to pay for themselves to get involved in Formula One, to just get that experience. They don't really have anywhere to go anymore. And this year, I think probably the crop of new drivers is some of the best that we've actually seen in Formula One. We've had four or five new guys into F1, and all of them have been relatively quick.
But I think that's good for the health of Formula One, that there's youngsters coming through, different nationalities. Raikkonen does a practice start. That's quite interesting. Alistair did say that they had the car up on high stands yesterday to kind of say that there obviously was problems with the engine in Raikkonen's car working away there. So it will be nice to try and understand what actually happened. But I tend to agree that a lot of these youngsters have done a very good job. Problem is, who's going to remain in Formula One next year? Yeah,
there's another man, Ryan Karthikeyan, should have a good following here this weekend, but also a man that I think, India want to see him in Formula One. I'm sure Bernie Ecclestone wants to see him in Formula One as well. Had a great start to the season, impressed everybody, but then sort of fell off. I think a little bit too much pressure. Maybe, the publicity wagon of Formula One getting a little bit to him.
Probably, he initially started off very well. A lot of teams were looking at him in terms of maybe doing a test driver role, etc. And unfortunately, it didn't quite work out that way. And he just went off the rails a little bit. But I think he's young and talented enough to know and to go back into the off-season with a bit of introspection. And I'm sure, it'd be interesting to see who the Jordan drives do go to. Those two seats are still up for grabs. Maybe with some good sponsorship, he might still be there.
Could well be there. On track, it's Kimi Räikkönen for McLaren Mercedes, and actually just going straight out. We saw that in Japan as well. Got the setup of the car. I mean, that's just the beauty of this McLaren. It's just ready to go out of the box. Just slap on some tyres and let's go.
Yeah, the thing is, when the car's working well and it handles well, it generally works well at every kind of racetrack that it goes to. It's not that you've really got to change everything massively to get it to work. And McLaren have got it in the sweet spot. And it just shows you, wherever they go, whatever kind of track, this car is super fast. And like you said, out the box. And that just means this car is doing exactly what the driver wants it to do.
A 25-second first sector into turn 6. The interesting peculiarity of this circuit is lots of traction events through the very fast turn 7s and turn 8. A nice series of left and right-handed corners through turn 9. Obviously, a bit of a slow corner again, hits the apex beautifully. This McLaren looks very, very well balanced. The long run down to turn 11 and completing the second sector. 53.3, and then through the complex of turn 11, 12 and 13, the fast long right-hander onto the back straight.
Well, I tell you, McLaren looks as though it's just sticking wherever it needs to be. The trickiest part now that he's got to just handle, he's getting his braking zone right going into turn 14. Let's see what his quick or his fastest speed is down here. Hopefully we'll get that graphic. Haven't got it. You see Gary, that's the braking marks. You were talking about the black areas where they brake. Looks perfect through turn 14, does Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah, and that's where you also really need the car to handle going through turn 16 there onto the main straight.
34-0 for Kimi Räikkönen. McLaren coming out and saying, okay, we're ready to play. Takuma Sato, the next man who's on track as well. Ron Dennis. Looks as though they're going to get a huge award this next week coming up for architectural design of the Paragon establishment in Woking in the United Kingdom. Has been voted as one of the most spectacular pieces of architecture in the UK. So brilliant, more brilliance from Ron Dennis.
Yeah, we've seen that, and it's brilliant to see a headquarters so fantastic like that, housing all of McLaren's road car division, their special projects, and of course the Formula One team. As Fernando Alonso is also on track, so showing that when McLaren are laying down the gauntlet, Renault are right there to answer it. And this car here is supremely quick down the straight. 334 is what we saw in the last session. A good nearly 5-6 kilometers an hour faster than anybody else.
Quite a few guys on track. We saw one of the Saubers, Villeneuve, and David Coulthard on track as well. One of the Jordans leaving the pit area.
Well, Kimi Räikkönen has set the fastest second sector again in terms of his second sector time. So watch for Kimi Räikkönen to probably go quicker than a 1 minute 34.099. Fernando Alonso into turn 14 at this moment in time, and probably on the run now. A little bit odd there.
Yeah, just warming up. I think just getting ready for a run now. He'll start the lap as he goes into the straight there. Just make sure he's right. It's strange to see that sort of thing happening. Tyres should be warm from the tyre warmers and so on.
Well, if you look now, there's sort of a very high entry speed into turn 1, Gary, but then there's an interesting complex of 2, 3 and 4.
Well, when you see the car now, it just comes to this point there, like you said, very speedy in there, and you've got to brake and turn and do all the things that you don't necessarily do, and it goes against all the textbook sort of rules that corner, and that's what makes it so difficult to get it around there.
Into turn 6, very high traction event, but a full 10th down on Kimi Raikkonen's first sector.
Well, Kimi Raikkonen broken into the 33s, the 33.9. Takuma Sato second with a 35.9, 2 seconds off the pace.
So a fantastic run by Kimi Raikkonen, but let's see, Fernando Alonso is only a 10th down, so that sort of puts him on track for a low 1 minute 34. He's coming now down to turn 11. Here we go. He's a full 4 tenths down. So McLaren at this moment in time have the upper hand, but this Renault is particularly quick down the straight, so he'll make up a bit of time in sector 3.
You see one of the BRs at Sato that just.
It's unfortunate. Sato desperately needs a very good weekend. Into turn 14, he's got a bit of traffic ahead of him, but I don't think that'll come into play through turn 15, and then the left-hander 16 onto the pit straight.
Lost another 10th. There goes second, 34.4 behind 33.9 from Kimi Raikkonen. David Coulthard is in the third position, exact same time as Takuma Sato.
Yeah, I think when you look at all these certain performances we've seen in the last couple of
very similar to what happened to Antonio Pizzoni in the last session.
Yeah, and what happened to Michael, it always looks like the rear end grip is the one that's definitely going away. The guys are not understeering off the track. They the rear grip's going away and spinning off. Sato did manage to get it back on circuit. So yeah, it's just odd. These guys need their rear tyres to stay in shape through the course of the Grand Prix, purely because there's so much of slow speed traction corners. If your tyres are gone very early, you're going to have a very poor race.
And things that destroy the tyres is when the car is sliding around too much at the back, or it's got too much wheel spin. Even though they do have traction control, might have to use too much of it. That's the kind of thing that puts big strain on those rear tyres, and that gets them worn out quite quickly.
Well, one problem, Montoya, 332. Well, McLaren are answering the top speed stakes here, so I don't think there's too much of issues. But just remember, I think Montoya has also changed his engine for this race. So he was due an engine change, so he can have one of those little special one-race engines coming down to 34.0. The two McLarens, P1 and P2.
800th splitting the two McLarens in terms of time. Right a match for each other. There's Adrian Newey, the designer. What a sterling job he has done for McLaren and Williams in his career, but specifically with this MP420 for McLaren, definitely the class of the field.
Yeah, we want to see Jenson Button go on track. Alistair has, or did mention, he was very optimistic about their performance potential this weekend. As one of the Jordans has a bit of
just hitting too much curb, I think, and just unsettling the car for him.
Yeah.
We did hear Alistair also mention that the curbs were very aggressive here at China, putting a lot of pressure and strain on the sidewalls of the tyre and causing punctures and so on. And that's not the kind of thing that is going to do your tyres any favour by hanging it out on the curbs like the Jordan there.
Well, at the moment, Fernando Alonso is lying in third position, but has done his fastest first and second sectors of the session thus far, so it will definitely imply that we can see some more pace coming from the Renault. And also is a situation that says that the tyres are not wearing out as well. It shows us a situation that as the fuel load comes down, these cars are just going quicker and quicker and quicker. But a 1 minute 33.9 and a 1 minute 34.0 is seriously quick for this time of the weekend. And it's just an implication of what can be expected in terms of the lap time for the rest of the weekend, and whether they can get to I think they're going to beat the pole position time of 1 minute 34.0 from last year, which was Rubens Barrichello.
Yeah, it's just amazing to think that the FIA has worked so hard, or did so last year, to slow these cars down. And when we were already seeing record lap times last year, and this the technology and the pace of Formula One just will never allow it to actually slow down.
Incredible stuff. Felipe Massa 1.1 seconds down in the second sector. Could put him well up into 5th or 6th position for Felipe Massa. Coming up to the final part of the track, goes into turn 14, got a Red Bull racing car in front of him. Hopefully it won't affect him. His last race for Sauber, he's actually backed right off. We're going to try another lap.
Yeah, and Sauber once again, provided a young driver with a chance to really showcase his talent and become established in Formula One, gain a lot of experience. Go off to the bigger team now. Though he has been at Ferrari as a tester, but go off now, and then to hopefully be able to compete at the highest level of F1 and ultimately for Grand Prix victories.
Well, Michael Schumacher is on track. We want to see how the Ferrari has coped with the tyre degradation they were experiencing in the first free practice session. We haven't seen any sector times for him yet, but he is on track.
There we go. So is Rubens Barrichello and Christian Klein. Great to see him on track. There we are, actually following him right at the moment. Didn't do any laps in the third free practice session. Not sure what the problem is with his car. Hopefully it's not an engine-related problem which will penalise him. Had a great qualifying in the Japanese Grand Prix as well, did Christian Klein.
That's not bad. 4/10 off Raikkonen. That's not bad at all.
This could well put him most probably in 4th position at the end of this lap. Let's see how he does to the end of this lap. Also, man to watch, Felipe Massa, who's on track, Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, and Fisichella, and Jarno Trulli.
Well, Jenson Button has gone obviously in 4th position, and Fisichella just behind him. David Coulthard again doing a standout job. 330 kilometers an hour for the Red Bull racing car. That Cosworth engine obviously is putting out some power. We saw at the Japanese Grand Prix they had terrible straight line speed, but here they seem to really have upped that pace. So a very, very good run from him. Michael Schumacher has gone in 8th position, but 2 seconds off the pace. And here we are riding with him at this moment in time. It's coming through turn 10. And on the run down to turn 11 for the lap time beacon, 1 second off the pace. He's probably going to go a bit faster, but normally
maybe 3/10. I think he's going to move at 1 place to maybe 9th. It's just battling. You see him just having to turn on.
Yeah, he's got to be it's almost like he's got to be gentle with the turning of the car. If he's too aggressive, the rear end's going to come around. So it just shows you that they're struggling for rear end grip, and it's a bit odd because there's virtually no grooves on the front tyre, so it just shows that there's a lack of rear end grip.
Yeah, and the whole car just generally unbalanced, if that's the case, and you're sort of sacrificing grip at the front in order to gain at the back.
A full 2.9 seconds.
He lost 2 seconds on that. So that was Rubens.
Yeah. Well, he lost a second in that final sector.
The final sector.
But you could see him coming onto the straight, the car was not reacting too much to steering input, so he's almost got to unwind the steering to try and keep the rear end planted. I think they've got some serious traction problems here.
But what's amazing is that Ferrari haven't been able to fix this car. That's the part that sort of gets me.
It's scary.
And yet you've got Ross Brawn coming out and saying, he doesn't think this is actually a bad car. He thinks it's a very good car. So either they've lost the plot completely at Ferrari, or the clear indication is that the tyres, they believe it's the tyres.
Well, whatever, it's a combination of something. But, last year they won here. They've got the data from last year, and they're not even anywhere close to the times that they were last year.
100%.
Yes, there have been aero changes in the rear wing, but a lot of it is down to the tyres, and that's it.
Well, Mark Webber on track. We haven't seen some lap times. He's obviously just on his out lap and going to start his flyer. Track and air temps have stayed the same. Humidity about the same. The wind speed has dropped slightly, so he's going to get a good slipstream from Michael Schumacher down the straight and then start his flying lap. Remember, he was in 5th position at the end of the last free practice session.
Goes into turn 14, the BMW Williams, and he backs off now, getting ready for a long run.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about there. You can see going in there, backing it off, then powering through again, then all of a sudden having to slow it down there while you've got some big lock on the steering wheel, trying to turn it into turn 3 there. It just showed you just Webber slightly running wide there, and very, very difficult corner. You can see corners like this now, it's braking, he's off the throttle, back onto the throttle as he exits the corner. Your sort of more traditional, classic way of driving.
Yeah, I think it cost him a lot of time. 4 tenths down in the first sector for Mark Webber. Let's see how the rest of his lap goes. He's got to keep it going. It's Raikkonen, Montoya, Alonso, Button, Fisichella, Christian Klein, David Coulthard, Red Bull Racing looking racy at 6th and 7th at the moment. Then Ralf Schumacher. So they found something, although he's still 1.6 seconds off the pace. Mark Webber losing another 6 tenths in that middle sector. So he's now a full second down. Rounding out the top 10 is Michael Schumacher, 2 seconds off the pace. Then Sato, Villeneuve, Trulli, Barrichello, Montero, Albers, Durnbos. Webber on a lap, but Sony not out yet, nor is Narayan Karthikeyan.
Well, Mark Webber also lost about 8 tenths in that final sector, where he was 5th in the previous sector, so in the previous session. So just a bit odd in terms of what is going on. A lot of people sliding the rear end of the car.
It's really a difficult complex of corners,
Yeah,
it's
sure. Rubens has upped his pace. He's now only 2 seconds off the pace. Well, only. And a 10th behind Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, I think it was okay. The car was still a little bit snappy. It was a little bit better, but still a bit snappy compared to before. But it was quite reasonable. The guys are still a little bit snappy in the high speed, so I'm afraid with new tires will be even more. I think for the tires we need to back off a bit more wing. Because yesterday when we put new tires, the car was oversteer in the first lap, so don't want to have this again.
Felipe Massa conversing with his engineers as to how the car is handling. There are the timesheets at the moment. Half a second between the McLarens and the Renaults, then another 4 tenths between Renault and BAR.
Yeah, but look at the gap between Alonso and Fisichella.
Yeah.
That's the worrying.
That's the significant problem that Renault have got specifically for this race for the Constructors' Championship.
And the problem is this is not going to go away until they get another driver that can actually compete with Fernando Alonso.
Yeah.
They've got to go and race for the same championship next year, and it's not going to make the job any easier.
Antonio Petsonia on track. Let's see his faster speed. His teammate Mark Webber has gone into 5th position ahead of Giancarlo Fisichella.
Well, Jarno Trulli's on track, still trying to extract some. Oh, very good performance.
Great lap. Just pips out his teammate, does Antonio Petsonia. And he really needs a big weekend as we cross over to Nico Rosberg. He's most probably watching that going, well, if you do too well this weekend, maybe in the test drive as opposed to the real drive.
Yeah. It's quite interesting to understand what the emotions Rosberg must be going through, and Petsonia. Petsonia must realize he's under pressure, so he's really got to try and do the best he possibly can, and Rosberg is hoping that he's going to spin it and do the worst weekend possible.
I think Rosberg knows that he's got a future in Formula One, and he's got to have patience as well. As much as everyone wants to get in the car, then maybe it would be very beneficial for him to maybe take up a testing role first, Gary, as opposed to getting just thrown into that car immediately.
Yeah, I think it would be better for him, like you say, to just spend a year testing really on a regular basis, just learning about F1 and all the little intricacies of it. But having said that, take a guy like Jenson Button. He was thrown in at the deep end. took him a year or two to get going, but now he seems to have really, got the situation under control, and definitely one of the in the top 5 drivers, I would say.
Ralf Schumacher currently in 10th position, 1.6 seconds off the pace. Then Sato Massa, the 2 Ferraris, going down 19 runners. Karthikeyan has not gone out.
Well, Fernando Alonso has certainly picked up the pace. A simply scorching first sector, 24.8 seconds. I think that's the fastest we've seen thus far. I think the time of low fuel loads and new tyres is starting to appear now. Or just to keep an eye on Fernando Alonso. I'm sure that's going to be some quite blistering times. And Juan Pablo Montoya has gone out on track.
Here we are with Alonso coming into the final part of the lap, going down towards turn 14. Just seems to take forever going down here. I think it's 1.2 kilometers long, this long straight. What a phenomenal time, Fernando Alonso, 1500ths. Up on the time of Kimi Raikkonen.
And there's probably more to come because he didn't quite hit that apex.
Yeah, he missed
in that
turn
final
15. Turn 14 into 15 wasn't his best.
Well, Montoya has also got into the 33.9. So the top 3 runners are all 33.9.
600ths of a second, splitting Fernando Alonso, Kimi Raikkonen, and Juan Pablo Montoya. Then we've got a second back until the next runners. People like Fisichella have to lift their game, although he's gone quickest. He's quickest in the first sector, although he's still half a second off his teammate. Ralf Schumacher has gone his fastest in the first sector as well.
Yeah, probably coming back into the pits now. I think this is their last run on old tyres. They'll come bolt on some new rubber and see what the differential is. But at 1 minute 33.9 is already quicker than last year's pole.
Yep. Last year's pole, 1 minute 34.012 from Rubens Barrichello. The lap record last year from Michael Schumacher, 32.238. So, Montoya actually going to go on again. It's to onboard him through this very
That's compromised his whole lap. He's not very happy, I suppose.
Didn't see which Ferrari driver it was, but rather peculiar, Gary, to be going that slowly through that complex of corners.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously just battling with something there, and perhaps just trying to get back to the pits, or perhaps warm up those tyres, get some temperature into the tyres. Just a team that you just can't believe a team like that would be battling so much. Yeah, but everybody, in particular that corner there, the rear end grip just seems to go away. As soon as you run too wide, slightly offline, you can just see it happening there. No more grip left on the track surface.
And you got to believe Fisichella's pushing it as well, because he's seeing where his teammate is. Raikkonen is now quickest in the 33.8s for Kimi Raikkonen, Alonso, Montoya. And that's why, there's nothing between those three, and yet Fisichella's a full 1.1 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a year he'd like to forget. Started off so well at Australia with the win, but since that point in time, he's just gone backwards in the season. Reliability issues. Kimi Raikkonen going to turn 14. We haven't seen what his second lap is like. Now he's going into the pits.
McLaren got so much on offer. Both the Ferraris out on track. Yana truly out on track. And he set a fastest lap with that lap. Villeneuve on track. Man still hasn't come out in a Ryan Carthicane.
Michael Schumacher on track and has done his fastest first sector of the entire weekend at 25.1 second first sector, which should see him move up the leaderboard. But a terrible second sector, 26.7 seconds. Not really. I mean, the Ferrari's just lacking grip in the sections where it matters most, where there's fast corners. That's normally mean an aerodynamic problem. Aerodynamic grip is not very good there.
Two turns down, sector one for Jenson Button. Maybe they bolted on the fresh rubber on the BAR Honda. See how he progresses for the remainder of the lap. It's still Raikkonen, Alonso, Montoya, Button, Petsonia, Fisichella, Weber, Coulthard, Clean, and Ralf Schumacher making up the top 10.
Well, to give an idea, in that second sector, Michael Schumacher lost out 0.6 of a second in the second sector compared to Kimi Raikkonen. I mean, in a 26-second sector, you lose 0.6. That's
not looking too good for you.
No, that's a lifetime. Michael Schumacher ends up P7, 1.1 seconds off the pace.
1/1000. You see, this is what's crazy. It's 1/1000 off the pace of Giancarlo Fisichella, but the other Renault is a full second quicker than that.
Yeah, sure. I would have to say that's probably Michael's run on new tyres. If we look at the time that's left in the session, this is Fernando Alonso. He's going to bolt his new tyres on, and Kimi Raikkonen and Juan Pablo Montoya as well. So we'll probably see the Ferrari still ending up 2 seconds off the pace.
Looks that way. Villeneuve just put in his fastest lap. Has a big moment.
I think he thought Montoya was on the outside of him. Jarno Trulli goes into P9, just ahead of his teammate Ralf Schumacher, but still a full 1.2 seconds off the pace. So not quite in the vicinity where we used to Toyota being. That's too far down. That's midfield.
At times this year we've really wondered them, and the Minardis and Jordans have been pretty good on the same Bridgestone tyres that Ferrari uses. You see Albers here so far over the lap, only 1.5 seconds down. And really, just I think highlights again just the fact and just how much Ferrari are actually struggling with their car.
Yeah, I mean, up to that sector, he's probably only 0.6 or half a second slower than the Ferrari.
Pretty quick pace from the Minardi Cosworth as well, 3:31.7. Christian Albers looks to be on a really good lap at the moment. He's currently sitting in 17th position, 2.7 seconds off the pace. Hopefully he's at a good final sector for Christian Albers. Crosses over the line, stays, he just moves up a couple of hundredths of a second. So just not a great final sector for him. Lost a full second in the final sector. Ralf Schumacher haven't got his splits at the moment. Coming into the final corner, turns left into turn 16.
He'll probably start his flying lap now. It'd be nice to just go through the lap with the onboard camera to to see how this Toyota is reacting.
Yeah. And again, just if
Everywhere,
they're just half a meter off the line, they go into you can say out of the groove there, so to speak, and you can just see the back end of the car wants to go away, and there's hardly any grip on the outside there.
There we go. And those kind of mistakes we saw with Mark Webber as well, cost him 0.4 of a second there. Also completely missing the apex is Ralf Schumacher. So, a very technical track, Gary. Not that easy to find the right setup.
No, I don't think so. And again, a track that it looks like you want to push harder, but you need to really keep yourself in check and not overdo it, because as you can see there, like I said, just as soon as you're out of that groove, the time slips away and you cannot get the car back onto the right line.
Well, we are into the final 9 minutes of the fourth and final free practice session. We should see a flurry of activity in the next 3 or 4 minutes. And specifically between Raikkonen and Alonso, just 0.02 of a second splitting the two of them. Montoya just a tenth back. Significant difference, Montoya to Button, 0.8 of a second. Petsonia ahead of Webber. Fisichella's going to have to pull something out the bag, because he's a full 1 second, 1.1 second off the pace of his teammate.
And you have to say it's very odd with Fisichella, because he's also got this new spec engine, so there should be no excuse for that. And if you look at the leaderboard itself, from fourth position right up to
huge lockup, sorry, there for Jacques Villeneuve, left front. Sorry, Karthikeyan out on track now for the first, well, on the grass, but on the circuit.
From 4th to 10th position, it's pretty much 0.3 of a second. So it's very bunched up there in the midfield, if you want to call it that. But the top three are just gone. It probably shows you Fernando Alonso's abilities in the car to be so close with the two McLarens up front.
The Ryan Karthikeyan putting a sterling performance, goes into 12th position.
Sure, that's a good qualifying. Not qualifying, but time lap from him.
Antonio Petsonia currently sitting in 5th position. Can he go any quicker? That looked like a pretty good exit. 1.2 seconds off.
I mean, Ryan Karthikeyan's time is just 300 slower than Takuma Sato in the BR Honda.
And he's quicker than Ralf Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello and Felipe Massa.
That could be quite a good performance if it stays like this towards the end. Probably not, but
Sauber seemed to be struggling terribly in this session. Villeneuve is currently last. Massa is in 16th position. They're both 2 seconds and 2.7 seconds. Montero now goes quicker than Felipe Massa. So Sauber having a torrid time. Their last Grand Prix in Formula One. Not the way that they want to carry on going for the rest of the weekend.
Okay, Juan Pablo Montoya is on track as we pick him up now, going through the pit straight. Is this the run on new tyres to give us an indication of how close they're going to get to the low 1 minute 33s? That car hooks up that apex better than any of the other cars there. Obviously, new tyres probably high mechanical grip, but through that turn 1, 2, 3, and 4. Better than anything else into kink into turn 5, full, nearly 1.5 tenths up, 24.945 through turn 6, and now to that very interesting complex of turn 7 and 8, a fast left and then a quick change of direction, fast right, and into turns 9 and 10.
Quite hard on the brakes. Left-hander, then another left-hander, sort of dart down on the fuel, get to about 280 k's an hour. Another 10th up in the middle sector. McLaren is just hooking it up beautifully. goes into the long right-hander sweep into turn 13, the back straight. That looked very neat and tidy from Juan Pablo Montoya, 2/10 up on his teammate Kimi Räikkönen with a very long straight to go. 3:34, I think, is the quickest speed we've seen so far down the straight. Let's see what Juan Pablo Montoya does. 3:29, hard on the brakes into the right-hander, hook it up. Pretty neat and tidy through 15, and then finally to the left-hander onto 16. Don't take too much curb, looks very neat and tidy. McLaren right on the money. Montoya picks up another 10, 3/10 quicker, 33.5 for Juan Pablo Montoya.
It looked like new tyres only gave him probably about 0.4 of a second, depending on fuel load. So maybe Michelin's tyre is just so good and so consistent that from old to new, there's not huge bucketfuls of time.
Yeah, some circuits are like it. Some circuits, you can gain a second and a half on new tyres. Other circuits only half a second. It just really depends on the surface and obviously what compounds that Michelin or Bridgestone would have at the race weekend.
Well, Alonso's on track. Jenson Button is on track as well.
And David Coulthard has gone fourth with a great lap. A 1:34.4, still 9/10 off the pace of Juan Pablo Montoya, but a great lap from David Coulthard for Red Bull Racing. Button, the man to watch.
24.9 first sector. We haven't got his second sector at the moment. Coming down the long straight, what sort of top speed? 3:28. Ooh, big. He's off the track.
That's just caused from out braking yourself, braking too late, perhaps maybe a little bit too confident in the new tyres that are on the car, and unfortunately for him, just overstepping the mark a little bit.
Final 3 minutes of the fourth and final free practice session. Both of the Ferraris out. Montoya coming on his way in. Kimi Räikkönen on his way in. Button, is he going to try another run on those set of tyres? There we go, just locked himself out. Was on a pretty decent lap. He was only about a 10th down in the first sector. Didn't see his second sector split, unfortunately.
Michael Schumacher on track. Fisichella also on a hot first sector. Alonso also reasonably well placed, and Kimi Räikkönen is on track as well.
.341 kilometers for the Renault down the main straight. That is by far the fastest that we've seen. Up to 12 kilometers faster than most of the other cars. Fisichella crosses over the line, goes into fourth, still 8/10 down. His teammates right behind him. Alonso goes second, picks up a 10th. So Fisichella still 6/10 behind his teammate Fernando Alonso. Gary, that Renault also turns beautifully. I mean, it just sticks. Look at it going through that complex of 2, 3 and 4. Really looks good together with the McLaren. Let's see what Räikkönen is on. Coming up to the second, well, we've got to see him till the end of the lap. Didn't get his second sector time. 7k slower than the Renault. Well, that's just incredible. Kimi Räikkönen pulls out another 3/10 on Juan Pablo Montoya. So everybody's now half a second behind the two McLarens. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, this Renault working well as well. Not as good as McLaren, obviously. But I've heard Renault say that the engine isn't as good as other engines and so on. But the engine seems fine at the moment, unless they've got a super duper aerodynamic package there, which has got hardly any drag and the right kind of downforce. And you don't really know. But this car is faring very well, and it's only the only package that stands any chance of taking a fight to McLaren.
And interestingly enough, Kimi Räikkönen was 10k an hour slower than Fernando Alonso in that straight, yet he set the fastest final sector. So it shows you there's a lot to be gained. Fernando Alonso coming across the line at 34 dead, 7/10 of a second off the pace of Kimi Räikkönen. It just shows you the type of... there's Rubens Barrichello coming across the line. 1 minute 34.5.
Fantastic. He goes into sixth position, moves ahead of Jenson Button and teammate Michael Schumacher, but still 1.3 seconds off the pace of Kimi Räikkönen.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Kimi Räikkönen's pace. He always pulls it out. Doesn't need a lot of laps or high mileage to get the lap time, and he just hardly ever makes a mistake. The one mistake I can remember is Brazil. That is it.
Man, also still to watch out in circuit is Mark Webber. He's was quickest in his first sector. I think this is Mark Webber. Didn't get his second sector split. But there we go. Unfortunately, messed it up into the hairpin because that was his quickest. He was 4/10 quicker than teammate Petsonia in sector 1. But unfortunately, that has messed up his lap for him. The two Saubers down in 17th and 18th behind the two Jordans. So Sauber having a torrid time.
It baffles us, but it must be baffling for the team as well. Certain tracks your car is good, come to others and the car is just bad. It just doesn't do anything you want it to do. And it's just generally there's some sort of fundamental problem with the car or the package or something in it. And it's hard to find because like I said, go to one track, you think you've got something, go to the next, all your gains have been lost once again.
So again, it's on that very bumpy section of the track. Car goes light. Instead of locking the tyres up, he decides to move on straight. And the reason they don't want to hurt these tyres as well is remember that if they have a problem in the race, these are the tyres that they're going to change to, so rather not flat spot them or hurt them too much.
Well, with all the cars going off once they're off the clean line, it's going to be a very, very tough first lap after the start tomorrow.
There we go, there's the classification. The two McLarens, 3/10 splitting them, then Fernando Alonso and Fisichella, 6/10 between those two teammates. Great performance from David Coulthard. Rubens Barrichello, 1.3 seconds off the pace. Button and Schumacher pretty close together, but 1.5 seconds down. And then Petsonia just ahead of Mark Webber.
Yeah, and just remember Mark Webber and Jenson Button did make errors in their braking zones, so I would have expected them to be much higher up and the two Ferraris slightly further back. Rubens Barrichello getting one over Michael Schumacher, which is great. But again, the two McLarens up front as we go to the second page.
Yeah, they're truly finding a little bit for Toyota. Then Christian Keen, Takuma Sato not having a good day. Great effort from Narayan Karthikeyan, Ralph Schumacher battling. Then Montero, and then, as you say, Massa and Villeneuve in 17th and 19th. Villeneuve slower than the Minardi and just ahead of Robert Doornbos. So Sauber having a torrid day.
Yeah, not a very good result from them. And Robert Doornbos, we haven't particularly seen why he was slower than Christian Albers, but generally a reasonable result for Minardi and especially for Narayan Karthikeyan in Jordan.
Yeah, you've got to believe, Gary. I mean, there's Fernando Alonso putting in, you can see driving the wheels off that Renault, gets up close, just a couple of hundredths off the pace of McLaren, and then Montoya comes in, puts in a cracker, and then Raikkonen comes in, does even better.
Yeah, it's
difficult for him. Wow.
Frustrating, and especially seeing that you bought new spec engines and so on to the last race in order to give you that performance advantage. And I think Renault just wondering a little bit as to why they're not as fast as the McLarens, because this McLaren goes well anywhere at any time.
Well, McLaren really riding the crest, and Vic also, he must be so confident, Kimi Räikkönen, after his drive in Japan.
Yeah, absolutely confident, but the car looks to be perfectly balanced, perfectly poised, no braking errors, no errors at all. A fantastic drive so far by Kimi Räikkönen.